Hey guys, my name's Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille. Welcome to our chain mail tutorial channel. Hey guys, big hi, hello, welcome, thanks for popping in and spending some time with us. Today I am going to be doing a project from our February's Mail Club subscription box. There's a link down below in the description section if you want to find out some more information about our subscription services. This is the first box. For this one, or the first weave in the box. This one, because it was February, we thought we'd do the obvious and do something that revolves around Valentine's Day and love and all of that thing. So this one is called Love is Messy. It's incorporating a lot of rose quartz beads and chips, which is considered the gemstone of love, and it utilizes a full Persian weave. Anyway guys, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so here's a sample piece of the Love is Messy bracelet. So as you can see, it is two sections of full Persian 6-in-1 with this beaded strand in the middle, and some cones and beads on the end of the bracelet. So anyway guys, coming up on the screen now are all the tools and components that you're going to need to make this bracelet. So the lengths are for a 20 centimeter or approximately 8 inches in length, so you will need to adjust that as suits your fit. You'll also need to make sure that you've got something to cut and loop some head pins with. So that can be either the round nose pliers and wire cutters, or a looper if you happen to have a looper, something like that, or plooper, or whatever it is that they're called now. Alright guys, so as I said, that's the bracelet, so let's get into it. So to start this bracelet, I'm going to make the full Persian piece first. And to do that, we make a starting chain of 2 in our larger size rings, which is the 6.25mm ID rings. Okay, so we make a chain of those. If you don't have 6.25, then a 1/4 inch or 6.35 should work as well. Alright, so there you go, we've got our starting chain, and in this chain I'm going to grab a twist tie and pop that in the end. You're going to need something like a twist tie or a piece of wire or a paper clip or something like that to help hold all of your rings in place at the beginning. So we've got our 2 rings. I'm going to flip our end pair either side like that. Okay, so one on each side, much like when you start Byzantine. I'm going to take them all the way back and pinch them against the work. Separate out those top 2 rings, because what I'm looking for are those rings that we just folded back, and I want to place our next ring through the same path there that our awl has gone through. So taking up an opened ring, I'm going to feed that straight through those 2 rings there that we folded back. I'm going to lock that in place and then feed another ring through that very same path. Okay, so take up another open ring and go through that same gap, picking up those 2 rings and locking it in place. So this is what your work should look like at the moment. It is a little loose and unstable right now, but we will, and looking a little bit like Byzantine, but I promise we will miraculously change into full Persian. So take up another one of your open rings and feed it through those 2 rings that we just placed, okay, so that your work looks like this. Now what I want to do, while I'm still holding onto my ring and it's still opened, I'm going to grab my work and I'm going to tilt it up a little bit so that I can now see the 2 rings in the middle that I placed previously. Okay, and those 2 rings is where I'm going to continue feeding my open ring. So it goes through all those 4 rings just there. Okay, once I've got that in place, I will close that ring up. And I want to repeat that on the other side of my work. So take up another ring, put it through those top 2 rings on the other side. Again, flip my work up and feed my opened ring through the 2 middle rings in that previous section. Okay. And then once you've placed those 2 rings, you've gone from having something that looked like Byzantine to having 2 sections of full Persian 6-in-1. So we actually want to place a total of 10 sections. So this here being 1, this here being 2. So we want a total of 10 of these sections on each side of our weave. So just go ahead and continue to make your full Persian up. So to do that, we want to take another open ring. And this time, we don't want to pick up these rings here on the top. We want to pick up the rings that are in the middle there. Okay, so go separate the top rings so that you see the next ones in line, and feed your open ring straight through that section there. Close it up, and of course double that ring. So take up another open ring and go through exactly the same path so that you've doubled your ring, and your work should look like this. Okay, taking up another ring, feed it through the top 2 pairs of rings, just like that. And again, remembering, do not close your ring yet. Bring your work up a little bit so that you can see the middle rings in the previous section. And we're going to feed our opened ring through both of those rings there, just like that. And then close it up. And we're going to do the same on the other side of the weave, taking up another opened ring, going through the top pair of rings, bringing our work up so we can see these middle rings here in the previous section, these ones that are causing the upside down V, and go through both of those rings, close our open ring up. Okay. And there we've got 3 sections of full Persian. Okay, so I'll just show you once more. So we're not picking up the top pair, we're picking up the second pair, the pair there, straight through the gap. Okay, pop 2 rings in there. So there's 1. And then 2, place another ring straight through that same gap. Then once you've got those 2 rings in place, take up a new ring and feed it straight through those 2 rings that you just placed. Before you close your ring though, bring your work up so that you can see the middle rings of the previous section. And we want to feed our open ring through both of those rings there, just like that. Okay, close it up. Take up another ring and do the same thing on the other side of your weave. So straight through the rings on the top, bring your work up, feed your open ring through the pair below, and close it up. Okay guys, so you keep doing those same steps until you've got a total of 10 sections of full Persian 6-in-1, or however many it is that you need to complete it. And we need to make 2 of those sections. So once you've made 2 sections, or 2 pieces, 10 sections long each, I'll meet you back here and I will show you the next step to creating our bracelet. Okay, so for our next step, we're going to do the beaded section here. Now this is going to take a little bit of prep work. So you're going to need to grab your gemstone beads and chips, your head pins, and whatever it is that you're using to create the loops in your piece. Now, I chose to do wrapped loops just to give a little bit of extra security to the beads so that the loops don't open up. And quite frankly, I just like the look of wrap loops. I find them easy to do. They're not particularly neat, it doesn't matter. They're not supposed to be perfect. But to do that, you will need, to make the bracelet up as it is here, you're going to need a total of 12 of the 6mm beads, a total of 16 of the tiny 4mm beads, and you're going to want 26 pieces of the chips. Okay, so this is to make up 13 rings with the beads and the chips hanging off it. So I'll just show you quickly on a 6mm bead how I do the wrap loop. So taking up the bead and my head pin, I'm going to put my bead all the way down there, and then I'm taking my flat nose plier, or my little chain nose, or whatever it is that you've got. You could even use the end of your round nose plier if that's all you've got on hand. I'm going to push that up against my bead, and I'm just going to push the wire straight out at that 90-degree angle so that I've got a little bit of space in there. Then I'm going to take up my round nose pliers and I'm going to put them in there. I'm going to do down towards the end of the plier because I don't want this loop to be horrendously huge. And I've just got it, you can see, fitting inside the little bend. I'm going to, while grasping that, I'm going to bring that wire back towards me, all the way towards me, down as far as it'll go. I'll then adjust my pliers this way so that I can continue to wrap that wire around so that it then points back out the back again. Okay, this gives me a little bit of a loop going on here. Okay, I'm going to grab that loop with my pliers. I'm going to straighten this up if I need to a little bit, if I feel that it's gone a little bit off center. And then grasping the end of my head pin, I'm just going to wrap it around that space we made there at the beginning until I have filled it all up, or until I've run out of usable head pin. These are quite long head pins, so generally I can fill that gap up with no problem. Okay, so once I've wrapped that all the way around, I'm just going to take my cutters now and come in and give that a bit of a snip. Set that aside. With these longer ones, I find these pieces are quite useful. But if yours are only short ones, then you may not be able to do that. If you like, give that end a bit of a squish to tuck it in. And there you go. So you're going to, as I said, you'll need to create a total of 12 of these beads in the 6mm, 16 of the same things in the 4mm, and 26 using the chips. Okay, so it is a bit fiddly, it's a bit of work, but that is what's needed for the bracelet. So if you guys go ahead and make up all your little beaded units, and I'll meet you back here to show you what I do next. Okay, so you've made up all your little beaded or looped beads and chips and what have you. And now we want to start joining that to one of our full Persian pieces and continuing the bracelet. So take up one of your small rings, which is the 3.5mm ID ring, and feed that through the second pair of rings on the end of your full Persian piece. Okay, and then close that up and then double that ring up. So we're just giving ourselves a little attachment point here for the beaded section. So double that up. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take up another 3.5mm ID ring, feed it through those two rings that we just added. But before closing, we're going to take one of our 4mm beads, our looped beads, pop that on, and then also place one of our gemstone pieces there, our chips I mean. That's on one side there, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side of that ring. So the small 4mm bead and then the gemstone chip. And then I'm going to very carefully close that up like that. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. Then my next ring, I'm going to place it through that ring that we just added, making sure I've got 2 of each of the looped beaded items on either side. And then onto that one I'm going to place one of our 6mm beads, one of our chips, on the other side 6mm bead, chip, and then close that up. And I'm going to keep going in that pattern. So my next ring will have the 4mm beads, 2 4mm beads, sorry, and 2 chips. The next ring will have 2 6mm beads, 2 chips. Keep doing that until you have 13 of these sections on your bracelet, or whatever it is that you need to make the bracelet fit you. Okay, so you go ahead guys and do that, and I'll meet you back here for the next step. Okay, so once you've got that whole beaded section done, and that's 13 sections in there, so 4mm chip, 6mm chip, 4mm chip, 6mm chip, 2 of each all the way up there. We then want to join our last ring to our second section of full Persian, and we just do that the same way that we joined it at the beginning. So grabbing 2 of our 3.5mm ID rings, putting it through that last ring in our beaded section, and then through the middle rings of our full Persian section. Okay, and next we're going to apply the caps. Okay, so for the next section we need a piece of wire with a loop. So you can get an eye pin if you've got one, that's great. If you don't have one, they're easy enough to make. Okay, so grab the section of your wire that you've got, put it through, measure it out to about 8mm, and then fold that wire over. Once you've got that bend there, just grab the end of the short piece in your chain around nose pliers, and then just start bringing that end back towards you so that you create a little bit of a loop there in your wire. Okay, so then taking that, we want to grab our piece of our bracelet, of our full Persian. I'm going to remove that starting wire, and I'm going to take up a 3.5mm ID ring. I'm going to feed it through the end of my full Persian piece, through the second rings there like we have been doing. I'm going to grab my hoop, my loop there, my eye pin. Sorry, words are hard. My eye pin, I'm going to feed that onto my open ring, and I'm going to close that up. Okay, so I've got my bead cone. I'm going to feed my wire through the bead cone. Now I'm not going to use any glue here. If you feel you needed the added security of glue, then maybe you might want to put some glue on your rings before putting them in, but I haven't found that to be necessary. Onto that wire there, I'm going to pop my 4mm diameter bead, and then I'm going to create another wrapped loop here. Okay, so like I did before, pushing this down nice and snug and tight so that it's all tight against each other. I'm going to fold my wire all the back there, so I've got a nice right angle going on. I'm going to take my round nose pliers, I'm going to bring that around, all the way around. Now I don't have as much wire to work with because I've just used the end of one of my previous head pins, but if you just use a new head pin, to create this, then you may have some more room than I've currently got. But you just want to wrap that around as tightly as you can. Okay. So I said, I've just used leftovers, but if you use a new pin and just cut the eye pin off or whatever, or you've got a longer head eye pin than I have, then this probably won't be as messy for you. But once you've got that wrapped into place, cut off any excess, anything that's sticking out. Okay, and your head pin should look, or your end should look something like that. And then what you need to do is just grab another 3.5mm ID ring. Feed that through that end, and then before closing, pop on your lobster clasp. Close that up. And then you'll want to repeat all those steps on the other end of your bracelet, minus the lobster clasp, of course. Just leave it with a ring on the end. And then once it's all done, it should look like this. Okay, so there you go, guys. There's your finished Love is Messy bracelet. Alright guys, well that's it. That is the video tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed this project. It's a little fiddly and it takes a little bit longer than most, but I think it creates a lovely little bracelet that hopefully you will enjoy wearing. So if you did like it, guys, don't forget to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube, comment questions below, share it with your mates if you like, or on social media. Check out some of our other content while you're here. There's plenty of projects and weaves and just general help for your chainmail journey. And last but not least, guys, don't forget to give our shop link up here a little bit of love. In there you'll find not only the bits and bobs and the you-know-whats, but it also encourages us to keep going with these videos for you. Alright guys, thanks once again. Hope you enjoyed this video and that I catch up with you again sometime in the very near future. Bye now.